Hello everyone and welcome back to another video from my channel Hybrid Modern Railway. Today we have a gold bag, which sadly does not contain any actual gold in the composition of the bag or inside of the bag, but for me the stuff inside is just as good as gold. So I am back from a weekend in Scarborough, little Christmas trip to Scarborough, and as usual we do a little bit of shopping. So I have two locomotives in here to show you today, plus also a little bit of memorabilia, railway armour I guess you'd call it, that I have got for the layout. So before we get to sort out the Triang 08 Shunter, which is yes one of the things that's in this bag, as you will have seen by the title, I do have some other things to show you. So first of all, I got this, which is a nice little Great Western Railways plaque, complete with, we chose cheesehead screws, flathead screws, because they just look better than Posi Drive or Phillips ones. They look slightly more old, and it's I presume die cast, so it's definitely a cast metal plaque. Nice and cheap, £4 I think. My parents very kindly got me this. I was going to get it, but then they were like, nah, we'll get you and your brother one. So very nice, really nice Great Western Railways plaque. There was a GNR, I think a Great Northern Railway one, and there was an LNER one, but without this writing up here. Otherwise, I would have gone with the LNER one. So this is going to go somewhere in the loft. Pride of place up on the other side of the memorabilia wall now, because we have got the jigsaw up, and I want to save room round that to leave space for a back scene. So a really nice little metal Great Western Railways plaque. Super happy with that. In fact, that can stay on the back of the workbench because that is a really nice piece, is that. And now that was from a separate shop, and the antiques shop I got it from, I noticed the bloke and the lady who ran the antique shop had put this in the bag when I bought the items, so if you'd like to visit, there is the related details. Really nice shop. It was quite a small antique shop, but it certainly had a wide range of stuff in, and the people who run it were really nice and helpful, and got me some money off on these locos as well. I think they got me £5 off two of them, which is quite good really, because they were at really decent prices. So the first item is this Triang 08 Shunter, which, it says on here, was £15. I'll explain the pricing in a little minute. So we'll just put the 08 to one side, but we get the box. I don't know if whether this sort of sleeve here is supposed to go on the front like that, or whether, I think there's definitely some element front cover of this box missing, but we have got part of the box, so just the tray and the box, which does actually, I believe, yeah, have the correct R number and the stuff on the end, so that's good. We've got part of a Triang-Hornby box. Wow, made in Great Britain by Rovex Triang. This must be really quite an early 08 then. And then there was this receipt, which we found in the bottom, which has nothing to do with what this is nothing to do with what I got, but found this in the bottom. It says £32. Whether this was for both of those engines, I don't know. And yes, if you're seeing a massive block in the middle of the screen now, it is because it's got somebody's details on that. I'll try and blur it doing some fancy DaVinci Resolve thing, but failing that will just be a massive black square in the middle of the screen. So that's that, and yes, it said £15, I'll come to that in a minute, but here we have a Triang 08. Really good condition actually. If I just focus down onto the actual body, fix the exposure, you can see that the body is in really good condition. You know, it's not dirty, it's not scratched, it's not got soldering iron stab wounds over it, the paint's good, the decals are really good. So yeah, it's probably the best, one of the best, if not the best Triang 08s I've seen in this condition. The couplings aren't even rusty, the buffers are all there. Yeah, it looks really good. Very corroded wheels, which I'll get the rotary tool on later, but I think you'll agree that is a really nice example of a Triang 08. We'll put that to one side because we do have one more item out of this bag, which, as the 08 was priced at just £15, which is absolutely brilliant. Now that we're on to the second one, I can tell you that while both are marked at 15, the bloke and I think it was his wife who run the shop knocked it down to 25 for two, so £12.50 each is an absolute steal for this. And this is a much more modern engine, as I'm sure you can tell by the wheels and the detail, which was £15. And yes, I have already loosened that sticker and just stuck it back on so you could see what it was. Thankfully, it hasn't taken any of the paint off underneath. And it's a really nice little Hornby 3F Jinty, number 47646. British Railways black. Metal buffers not sprung. Couplings, the D-locks, tension locks, but it doesn't really matter. There's a bit of funny stuff going on with the body back here, but they'll just all wash off. And it's got the Type 7, the M motor. You can probably just see that in there. But I'm not going to be working on this today. I'll work on the 08. I'm waiting for some parts for this to arrive because, as it's quite correctly says on the bottom, it is indeed DCC fitted, and because I have no way of testing DCC stuff, I have decided to replace this with a blanking plug. It's a 4-pin DCC decoder, so I'm going to replace this with a blanking plug. And I've just noticed the steps have come off somewhere. Come off there, that's not very good. Anyway, I'm going to replace it with a DCC blanking plug because I've no way to test DCC stuff, and then I'll just sell this as an analog loco and sell the decoder separately as untested, because yes, I am going to be selling both of these engines. And I think I've just noticed the other set of steps around the front is a bit wonky as well. I hadn't noticed that. These steps have come off recently because I haven't unboxed this before, so I wonder if the bubble wrap's caught it. But it's not to worry, I'll just put a tiny spot of glue back there and glue that, and possibly re-glue these on. The ones at the back look fine, but I have been very careful with this, so it must have already been slightly damaged. And it looks like they'll just push back into there perfectly. Yeah, they will. But anyway, we're not working on the 3F today. I'm waiting for the decoder, and yes, the traction tyre on here is missing, so I'm waiting for that to arrive. So I'll put that carefully to one side, and I'll glue and fix that and service it, get the traction tyres and the DCC blanking plug-in another video. But the cause of concern for today's video is the 08. Lovely simple thing to service this, so let's just crack straight on. Screw in at the back. So we're very simply being careful not to chew into the plastic. Literally just going to undo that screw and put that somewhere safe there. Body will then just lever off from the front, and I will go, and not in this video just to save pausing and doing all that. What I will do is, when I finish servicing this, I'll run downstairs, give this a quick wash, and then we'll come back up and test the engine after it's been serviced. But before we do service it, I would like to put this onto the layout. I'll leave the cover off because sometimes these motors do spark a lot, so I want you to be able to see the full difference between the start and the end of the restoration. So, up onto the layout we go. So, the 08 chassis is up onto the layout. Yes, that is the correct direction. The motor faces backwards because that bracket at the back there is where the back of the screw at the back of the body fixes in. So, yes, it's on in the correct direction. So, I'm going to give it some beans and let's see what it does. Oh, I saw a twitch from the motor. As I say, those pickups are black, so it may not actually work. Oh, no, it definitely works. I thought the pickups might be too corroded for it to work properly. But, oh yeah, look, there we go. We have got some movement. It's not too noisy. It's not making horrible grating noises. It sounds like it could just do with some oil to me, and being Triang engines, they're never going to be super quiet anyway. When it's running and not stuttering, it seems reasonably smooth. Arcing from the commutator, have we got any? No, not that much I can see, so that's a bonus. It's smelling like old Triang engine in here all of a sudden. Let me just reach round and pop the body on, just to see roughly how much of an increase in noises that is. It'll probably be quite a lot. It's not too bad actually. Cut out again, let me just give it a push. Well, when it is running at fairly sensible 08 speed. It's not just wanting to take off, so with a good service, I am confident, it's cut out again, we'll be able to sort that out. Yeah, that sort of speed there is quite good, really. So yeah, we'll give it a service, get it back onto the bench. Come on, get into the middle of the shot, and we'll see. There we go, if we can't fix this little Triang 08. Back onto the workbench then, let's crack on. So, body can come off and I'll just place that over there. And, well, we'll get disassembling. Not that there's very much disassembling to do. Strictly speaking, I shouldn't really have to take this weight out, but so I can get into clean the axles a little bit, because these are sort of a, not a split chassis, but the chassis becomes live, say, with the positive, and the pickups with the negative, or vice versa, depending on which way it is. So it's sort of like a half split chassis. You have pickups for one rail, and then the other rail just conducts to the chassis and through that screw there to the motor. So that's the little bracket there. In fact, we'll put all the bits in that corner. And then I'm going to unscrew this. As I say, it's not like it's a smoke generator, but it's just useful to get in to spray the axles with contact cleaner. And there is actually not a way in that way, so we'll do it from the bottom. But anyway, that's taken off and out of the way. We'll take the motor off now, which is this screw here. And how's the magnet? I don't have a remagnetizer, so however it is, it's going to stay like that. But they say you should be able to sort of pick it up, or pick it up with a screwdriver. It's certainly not pick upable with a screwdriver, but let's try something a little bit bigger. Are these magnetic? No, that's a surprise. Have we got anything a bit bigger that's magnetic? Yes, we'll try and get this on. Oh yeah, look. I'd say not doing that for too much longer, not to damage it. That magnet's plenty strong enough, so I'm not going to have to worry about the magnetism or anything. That seems perfectly strong enough. And in fact, I don't think this loco has been used a right lot, to be honest, because the commutator looks not pristine, but it looks very good. So we'll just unscrew that screw at the back to get the motor free. And there should be a little slip of copper at the front to pull out of here. Yes, there is. So we just bend that out of the way. Dislodge the brush. Just put in that spring there forwards. Dislodge the brush. Tweezers may be of some use here. See if I can do it with my right hand. Come on, little brush. Well, it's not a little brush actually, it's ooking massive compared to some. Come on. I have got spares of these, but might as well keep it original. Is that the brush out? Yes. There we, oh no, that's the furthest brush away. So I'm going to try and keep these on the same side, because, you know, if it's worn slightly differently to the commutator on one side, then it makes sense to try and sort of preserve that. Let's get the sleeves up. There we go. Right. We can pull this one out, and I'll get the rotary tool on that, because that is quite corroded, and we can get that perfectly clean. The capacitor, and is it a capacitor? Yeah, capacitor. It will come off with the pickups, which is what we shall take off next. I really should get my servicing sponge, but it's under all of the... Well, I'd have to climb under my workbench to get it, so I think we'll manage. There's no very fine detail to damage anyway, so we'll take the pickups off. Oh, that screws in quite stiff. There we go. In fact, let's use that bigger screwdriver. We'll whip that screw off. There we go. And that should be the pickups, and all of the wire gubbins come out. So take the motor out. Yeah. Oh yeah, I can feel it notching. I can feel the magnetism there as I turn it round. There's definite steps to it, which is good. That means the magnet's decent. That was the screw for the motor, so we'll keep that there. Pickups. Yeah, they're not too worn, unlike my Flying Scotsman's when I first said it would completely gone there. Actually, not too bad. We'll put them to one side, and now we do have a rolling chassis, do we not? Yes, we do indeed. Let's just roll the axles around by hand. Yeah, they're not super free, but they're not super stiff. I can feel a little bit of tightness here, so I think there's just some gunk somewhere got lodged up in it. I'll take the coupling rods completely off as well, why not, and I'll rotary tool them. I'm only rotary tooling all of this, by the way, with a brass wheel, so I'm not going to damage it at all. So I'm just going to basically fully strip this back. I'm not going to be taking the wheels off or anything like that, because then you just damage the plastic bushings, and there's absolutely no need to. So there's two coupling rods, there we go, and now we've just got a rolling chassis. So which is the wheel that feels a bit lumpy? That one feels fine. That one feels fine. this one at the end that feels a little bit stiff. But hopefully when we squirt that with some contact cleaner, it should be fine. So I'm not going to clean the wheels now. I'll clean the wheels when it's powered, so I can just simply spool the motor up and then the wheels will spin themselves as I rotary tool them. But what I am going to do is get the contact cleaner, which is under here. Oh, I may have to pause. Yes, I'm going to pause because I can't get to the cabinet to get it out easily. One moment, please. Apologies for that transition. I completely whacked the legs of the tripod with my chair. Oh, I'm going to need this, aren't I? So we'll just give it a flush out. We'll go from underneath first, in this gap here. Give that a flush out, down the sides. Nothing too excessive, because this is quite expensive, this contact cleaner. But it is good stuff. It's W40 contact cleaner. You can get a can, 400ml, for about 10 quid, and it does generally last me quite a while. I went through my first can really quite quickly, though, because I used it for cleaning bits on lawnmowers and stuff. So I'll not do that again and save it for the railway. And thankfully, this towel's coming to pieces. This stuff... Where's my better towel? This stuff does evaporate really quite well. Even in a cold loft, you can just blow on it to get it to evaporate quicker. But by the time we're done here, it should be fine. So, can be fairly rough with it. It's not going to damage anything. Just be careful you don't bend the coupling hooks. There we go. How free rolling is this now? Not so great on that one. We'll just try a little bit more. Ah. That could be why, because I've just noticed a piece of metal. A circle of metal there. I'm not sure that is supposed to be there. That could be why this one doesn't roll very freely and why we had that resistance at the start. Yes, it's a piece of metal. What that is, if you can just see that little thing glinting behind this wheel there, just there at the end of my finger, or at the end of the tweezers there, that's actually, these used to run on steel tracks, so they embedded a magnet there and there, so that the chassis would become sort of magnetised, and then it would sort of stick itself to the steel rail. Well, we use nickel silver now, so they're useless, so if they cause problems, people do actually just completely knock those out, because they can get bits of metal and cause shorts and stuff, but that actually used to cause it to suck to the track and have more traction, but with nickel silver that's useless. But we have actually got, I don't even know what that could be, is it like the head of a pin or something? We've got a bit of metal there that got stuck, so that can go straight off into the bin. How does that wheel feel now? Not great. Let's just give it a little flush again. Do it from the top side. Let's see how that feels now. You're never going to get them completely and utterly free unless you dismantle the complete wheel set, which I am not prepared to do. And it's not really necessary, to be honest. It's not that stiff. It was very, very, very stiff and want freeing up, then, you know, I might be inclined to. But for this, there is really no point in dismantling it completely whatsoever. Yeah, that's a little bit freer. It's not necessarily as free as the other two, but that's perfectly fine. Just give it a blow to encourage it to dry. Right, next job, I think we might as well... What might as we well do? The solder joint, actually, I've just noticed, to these pickups has come off. So we'll resolder that. I'll get the soldering iron fired up now, if I can find the plug. The layout room's a mess, so if there's a load of avalanche sounds in the background, that's exactly what it is, because, yeah, I'm in a mess, because I'm in the middle of doing scenery and doing this, so that's fine. Soldering iron's warming up. Now, I need to descend in my office chair and reach for the saviour of today's restoration, the rotary tool. So, let's get a little bit of rotary tool action underway. So, we need the rotary tool itself, and I need my brass wire cleaning bits, which I don't quite know where they've gone to, so I'll find them and I will come back to you in just a moment. Appropriate bits acquired. So, oh, you watch, this will be the wrong chuck for in here now. Is it? No. Oh, that's a bonus. Not chuck, collet, sorry. wrong terminology. So we'll put the brass wire wheel in and spanner it up so it doesn't fly off and kill me. Just need to wait for that to hook into the spindle lock notch. There we go. Right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to give the coupling rods a little bit of a polish. Try not to lose the pins, which are sort of half. I think they're actually stuck in there anyway, so that's fine. So I'm going to give the coupling rods a little bit of a polish now. That's both done now, and they are looking much better. Not going to rotary tool the copper on here, there's just too much to go wrong. A bit of muck there, I'll wipe off. Right, let's think about sorting the motor out. So the motor went on that way, I need to make sure the brushes stay the correct way as well. I have used, where is it, T-cut on the brushes before, but now I've got the contact cleaner, it is just as easy just to give them a squirt of contact cleaner and then just give them a good wipe on the end of the towel. T-cut is slightly abrasive as well, which is what we're going to use on the commutator, but that has made that, you know, nice and clean now. And what I'm actually just going to do is just polish the top surface there and that surface there, so that it's got a good connection with the that little springy bit on the motor. There we go. No need to do all of it, only the top bit contacts it. Right, the other one, which actually connects via that little piece I showed in there that slots behind it, but we'll still clean it. So, what I'll do next is this one. Again, this is where some of the electrical contact happens there, so I'll give that a bit of a clean. Right, that is nice and clean, but it did drop off while I was... It did drop off while I was cleaning, which I expected. This is going to be like 40, 50-year-old solder, and this dropped off the pickup plate, this has dropped off, so, you know, that's honestly what I was expecting, and I've saved some of my granddad's good quality lead solder to use on this. That's unleaded stuff there. So we're going to have to solder that back on. What else can we do? Let's get onto the motor, which is where my good old friend, regular T-cut, will do wonders on this commutator. Let me reach for some cotton buds. And all you need to do with T-cut is simply get a cotton bud. Get some T-cut on the end of it and apply it to the commutator. Run it round like that. And then using the clean end, polish the commutator. Can I get you in a bit closer? T-cut on there and just polish the commutator like so, and hopefully you can see from that horrible black mess we are actually coming up to a really nice shiny copper colour, which is exactly what you want. And in fact I think we are almost done. That can go in the bin. Missed. Never mind. Yeah, so you just want to give this a really, really good polish. And you can see all the black gunk that's coming off. And you can then flush the commutator out, the commutator out with WD-40 or something like that. You can clean with WD-40 as well. Just make sure you don't leave any residue, because that is sort of an oily lubricant, and if you get that on your commutator, it's not going to do it that much good. So you can clean it with WD-40 and stuff like that. You can use a fiberglass pencil, but again, that's going to scratch the commutator, and you're going to get little bits of fiberglass bristle in the end of your fingers, which is really not pleasant. So just by using T-cut or WD-40 or contact cleaner on a cotton bud, you know, you can get really, really good results. And really nice, clean commutators. And that one there is done. So let's zoom back out again. And because I have got it at my disposal, I am just going to give it a very quick flush with contact cleaner and just give that a little bit of a blow and let it to dry. And now with a very, very small flat bladed screwdriver, you could use a cocktail stick, I am just going to scrape out the slot, starting from the left, very slowly moving to the right. Not digging it in, not forcing it in, being careful not to slip like I nearly did then and scratch the commutator, and just wipe all the dirt out onto the towel. There's barely anything in that, so that's good. And for good measure, there we go. I'll leave that alone now. Commutator cleaned and looking beautifully shiny. Next step is to get some oil into the motor, and here is my Gauge Master / I think is it Modelcraft hobby pen. There is a felt pad at the back which you can fill up, but I am also going to just put some in there. There's the felt pad, but then you can also just oil straight onto the shaft at the back where it goes through, which is what I'm going to do as well. So I'm just going to dab a load of oil around there. Put some very carefully at the front of the commutator. Don't get it on the commutator, just go down in that gap there and make sure you get some in there. And then again, fill the pad at the front with oil as well. I think I'm actually going to, where's the lid for this gone? Reach for the 3-in-1. Oh, I can't feel it under the bench. One moment. Where is it? Ah, there it is. Reach for the 3-in-1. It's perfectly fine to use this as lubricating oil. And it just allows me to fill up this felt pad at the front a lot easier rather than waiting for it to dribble out of that pen. So fill up the felt pads on either side at the front. Be careful you don't get any on the commutator. Fill up the felt pad at the back. And if you've got a really noisy motor, then what you can actually do, which I'm not going to do because the magnet will lose its strength, is you can undo that screw there and that bolt, take the magnet out, and then you can actually get to the bearing that's at the back of this vertical plate here. But if you do that, you need to be careful and put a metal keeper, so any bits of like iron really, one on the top, one on the bottom, to keep the magnet in circuit, because while it's here it's in circuit retaining its magnetism. As soon as you take it out, especially because this is an old magnet, not a rare earth neodymium one, as soon as you take it out of the motor circuit, out of the magnetic field circuit, it will just lose all of its charge, all of its magnetism. So I really would not recommend taking that out unless you have got a really noisy motor. But fortunately this one, when we ran it at the start, did not seem to be, which is why I'm not going to do that. And because I don't have a remagnetizer and I'm not paying for somebody to remagnetize this, it's not necessarily the magnet strong enough. And because it's not a noisy motor in the first place, I'm just not going to bother. And I've never had to take that back plate off for a Triang engine. So that's that. I think we can do some soldering now and get the bits that have fallen off back together. I am just going to clean this one here because that fits into the back of that brush there, so that you can just slide this off. Usually on my Triang engines, because I always have my soldering iron on and ready, I just get rid of this bit and solder directly to the brush. But because, and I think I've mentioned this before, this is going to be somebody else's loco, I am going to preserve this bit here. Where's the rotary tool? Here we go. So just going to clean this up with the rotary tool. There we go, all nice and clean now. That is very, very good. Just a towel for my hands. And let's do some soldering. So what wants to happen is the leg of that capacitor there wants to solder back on to that little tag there. Let's zoom in again. Whip. So let's get some things out of the way. Just that tag at the top of that there wants resoldering to the leg of this capacitor. So because this is, you know, a Triang engine and it'll have had leaded solder on to start with, we'll use some leaded solder, the good quality leaded solder I saved for when my granddad lent me some. So we'll tin the end of that capacitor lead there. We'll tin the end of this here. And apologies, you just didn't see me solder that capacitor leg, but I just tinned it. And now, to save burning my fingers, I am going to hold that in there while I just refloat these two together. Yep, and that's made a really nice decent joint in there. Smashing! So now we need to clean the pickups, which means the T-cut again, which I'll use for pickups, copper contacts, stuff like that. We'll get the T-cut again, and we'll clean up the contacts and resolder it all on. Could use the rotary tool, but really don't want to damage this plastic pickup plate. So again, really should have put the brakes on the workbench casters. It's rocking about all over the place. I'm just going to rub the end of these. Could use sandpaper, but nah. You'll be fine doing it like this. as long as they're clean, that's all that really matters. And which, again, the fact that not a lot of dirt came off there does support my theory that this engine has not done that much work whatsoever. Again, I'm just going to give that a small squirt just because I do have contact cleaner. Yeah, it is expensive. It's £10 for a can. But, you know, it is good stuff. So that's those nice and clean. We just need to resolder that little wire back onto there. So I'm going to have to get in and out quick here, otherwise we're going to end up melting the pickup plate. So that little tag that's just there, I'm just going to reflow some solder. Well, I'm not going to reflow because the solder's come away from it completely. But I'm going to flow some solder onto there. Everything on the layout's getting in the way of my... There we go, that's got some on the back. Not using proper soldering technique here because I really don't want to melt the plastic. That'll do. What was I saying? Yeah, everything on the layout, because the layout room's a total mess at the moment, is getting in the way of my soldering iron lead. And yeah, soldered that back onto there. That's nicely. So that's all the soldering we have to do. So now, let's get that bit of solder out of the way. I think we can actually get on to reassembling, can we not? Yes, I think that's everything. So let's think about... Actually, no. We forgot the most important step, which is, that's me whacking the tripod, with the grease. Lithium moly grease, PTFE or white grease, lithium grease, you know, you'd probably be able to use any of that at all and it'd be fine. But this is the stuff I've got from Comma. It is quite good stuff. You get a lot of it for how much it was. So rather than using grease, rather than using oil, especially on engines like Triang, which are just very simple worm drive to straight gear in the middle, and with fairly coarse pitches as well. That's P-I-T-C-H, not P-I-C-T-U-R-E. It is a good idea to use grease on the worm, like that. Can I prop that up somewhere? Yeah. And on the middle driving axle as well, it's a good idea to use grease because it's a lot better lubricant and it's going to really help to reduce noise. So we'll just get some grease. Into the teeth of this wheel. And then what I do, and what people like OO Bill do, is they actually just put a little bit of oil as well, just to help thin out the grease and just to, you know, improve the lubrication properties even more. So I'm just going to whack a fair amount of grease, not stupid amounts, otherwise it just gunks everything up. I'm going to whack a fair amount of grease onto there. Get rid of the excess and get it all over my finger. Lovely. Let's get all that off. So that's some grease there. It's not really gunked up the middle in there, so that's good. And when I put the... In fact, you know what? I'll dribble some grease onto it now, and I'll do that again when that's on there. So just dispense a small amount of oil around there onto the grease, and that's going to be the best lubricant you can put onto one of these engines. So we can reassemble the motor, which means putting the corresponding brush, which was on this side, to start off with in there. In hindsight, maybe I should have put the grease on later, but it doesn't matter. Oh, actually, I'm just going to rotary tool this spring, because that does actually transfer power to that brush. Just the very end is what needs doing, that's the only bit that transfers any power. So that can go in there, and now comes the fiddly job. So if I push that in there, that's going to keep tension on that brush so I don't lose everything everywhere. And then what needs to happen is the other brush needs to slot in. And this is another reason why I generally tend to solder, because you don't have to worry about getting sort of 3 bits held in place. I'm going to slot the other brush in from the brush from the bottom, keep in tension if possible, slot that in front like that, make sure the insulator touches that there, and then what I can now try and do is very, very gently, you can either push this down the back or down the front of the brush, it doesn't really matter, as long as it's in and it'll conform to the shape of the brush. So I'm now just going to push that forward and drop that back in down there. I do apologise if you can't quite see all of this, it is a very, very fiddly job. And there, as you can see there, that little tag is now trapped by the tension of that spring against that brush, and that's going to take the power to the brush. Alternatively, you can solder it, but because this is going to be somebody else's loco when I've sold it, I am going to leave it alone. So that's all that sorted, so we can think about putting the motor back in now. Which means... oh, that's just come out again. I tell you what. We'll do it a different way. You can do it that way, but because that has just come out, I'm going to put the pickups in. Which go that way, because you've noticed they've cut out a slot in the chassis on that side, so that these bits and the wires under here don't sort of short together. And they've left room, cut out a notch on the side of that chassis so that none of this shorts against the metal chassis. Because remember, the chassis is live with either the positive or the negative, and then the pickups are live with the other one. So if these short to the metal chassis, you'll short circuit the thing, and things may go boom. They won't, but I just said that for the fun of it. I've made a bit of a mistake here, haven't I? Yeah, there's no way that's going to fit through there. No worries, we'll just simply desolder this. Turn the loco the right way up, pass that through there, and then solder that through when it's on this side. Even when I've been servicing engines as long as I have, which is, well, Triang engines is a good 3-4 years now, and doing a lot of them, even I still make stupid mistakes. This wasn't really a stupid mistake though, it's easily fixed. Solder that back onto there. Still haven't melted the plastic. Good. Now I can just flip that over. Oh, there's a bit of rotary tool wire there, we don't want that shorting. And now we can just locate those into place. And bung the pickup plate screws in, and that's seated nicely. Yes, get the grease out of the way, give myself some more room, and whoops, screw these down. Not ridiculously tight, because it is just a plastic pickup plate. Some of them are like some really flimsy card that I've worked on the Triang Nelly 04s before, or the Nelly type 04s. There we go, not looking too bad. That's the electrical connections to the top. So I tell you what, because it didn't work that time, we will screw the motor down first. So brushes to the top. Let's put that to that side. And what happens is there's a little notch there, and the motor just sort of slides into that notch and pushes in forward in there. You can see there. It seats into that notch, pushes forward. Make sure that now you've got the motor in the middle axle, can't turn because it's locked against the worm, which is fine. And then we need to get that little piece there where the screw goes through to connect the pickups to the motor. Oops, that's completely wrong. That screw needs to go through that little hole in there. And then that simply just needs to screw into there, and then we can manage all the wires once this is actually just screwed in. Which is easier said than done at the moment, as I'm sure you can tell. Let's bend that out like that. Get that screwed in, and then we can worry about the management of the wires once we've got it all secured in. And now the magnetism's affecting the screwdriver. Lovely. People have made brass screwdrivers for this exact purpose. Come on, you silly sausage. to stop them getting affected by the magnetism of the motor, especially if you've got a neodymium one in as well. That can be a right pain, especially when you've got a rare earth, very strong magnet affecting it. Yeah, they can be an absolute pain in the rear end to when you've got a really strong magnet like that to screw this screw in, and it's already, as I'm sure you can tell, oh, we're in, giving me quite a lot of difficulty. That's that in. So what we need to do now is we need to cover the capacitor again with this little insulating piece. That's just to stop it shorting on the chassis. So if I bend that down like that, and that's nicely kept in there, just bend that capacitor in like that. Don't have to be pretty, as long as that bit's sort of sandwiched in there to sort of stop it all shorting together, that'll be fine. And then I think I'm actually going to try and put this in front of the brush. As I say, doesn't really matter which way it goes round, but that just needs to go in front of there. That was not easy, it never is. So you can see there, that wire just comes round, the bit of metal dropped in front, and then that wire's just soldered on top of there. So that little bit of metal I was trying to get in, that's the brush there, and in front of it there is the bit of metal that makes contact with it. Let's refocus and set the exposure about there. That's good. I ended up bending the capacitor a little bit just to give me a little bit of extra room. I'm going to try my best to sort of work this way down there, but honestly, as long as it's not shorting, it really doesn't matter. I could try and get the capacitor, you know, sort of perfectly inside there, but that's just stopping the capacitor from shorting, and like that is perfectly neat enough, and nothing's going to short in there. We just checked the motor seated properly. Yes, we can't move that. The motor can spin the wheel, but you can't spin a worm drive backwards. That's good. Right, what bits have we got left? Get the solder out of the way. We have, do we not, the coupling rods. So let's get these aligned with the little bobs, little dimples, excuse me, facing upwards like that, because they, I think, represent, if I am not mistaken, oiling points. And if you rotate it to the orientation that the motor's in, which means you don't have to spin the motor over. So you drop that in like that, and sort of, then once those two are in, you can move it until the centre lines up with that screw hole there. Smaller screwdriver, so let's get this one. Is this screwdriver still magnetic? Yes. I have got the remagnetizer for the screwdrivers there, but let's put that screw in. Quite easy to lose these screws, so be careful. In fact, I have done that one a bit tight, so just do it just until it bites. Yeah, I did tighten that one up a little bit too far, and hopefully you'll agree these are now looking a lot shinier. So line them up with the other two and then rotate it until those line up. They will line up now pretty much instantly once you do the first side. Oops. Screwdriver keeps slipping out. Done that one up too tight. So if you want to tighten it to the right amount, just tighten it all the way. Oh, I've lost the hole now. I can't see what I'm doing. Let's use my left hand. So if you've done it too tight, you can just back it off and do it until you get the feel for just where it nips up, like that. Right, the last thing to do now is to put... Ooh, I'm knocking it all over the place. Is to put the weight in. So this goes in like so. That just screws in there. The disadvantage of being right-handed for screwdriver and pretty much left-handed for everything else is that I have no room to put the camera anywhere else in the loft apart from on the right. So I really should learn to use my left hand for screwdrivering. I am a left-handed writer, but yeah, for videos I should probably, well, it'd improve my dexterity at least. We'll just tighten that up. Like so. That's seated on there nicely. Ah, and before I forget, I said I was going to mix some of the grease on the worm with some 3-in-1 oil, so I'll just dribble some down there. that will be fine. Last thing to do is to wash the body, which I shall go and do now. Then we'll put it back together, put it on the layout, and see what happens. Hopefully it runs a lot better. Oh, yes, we need to clean the wheels as well. So I'll go clean the body. We'll clean the wheels, and then we'll put it on the layout and see whether it's, fingers crossed, any better than what it was when we first started. So then, the body's clean, not looking all that much more different. I just ran it under lukewarm water, partially because, well, the reason it was lukewarm was because it's cold, and I didn't want my hands to freeze to death. So yeah, I could have used a little, like, mild hand soap and, you know, sort of a soft toothbrush or a soft cloth if it was very dirty, but I literally just rinsed it and it's got all the dust off, just patted it dry, just being careful around the decals so I don't, like, scratch them or wipe them off. And yeah, doesn't look much different, but it does look a little bit cleaner and shinier than it was. Okay then, so now that the body's clean and hopefully we've got an engine that works as close to perfect as possible, what we can do is use powered wheel cleaning. So whether you're going to use T-cut and a cotton bud, whether you are going to use, that's the rotary tool falling over, with a brass wire wheel on the end. Don't use sandpaper on modern locos, but for very, very badly corroded Triang ones, you'd probably get away with using sandpaper, but I wouldn't recommend it. If you are going to use it, if that's your only option, just use a very fine grade and go slow and steady. So I've got some crocodile clips connected literally just to the positive and negative rails, the two rails, which come from my controller. So what we can do is we can connect one to the coupling, because the coupling's conductive, and the chassis is one part of the power pickup collection, and then I will simply, as that brush holder thing jumped out, it has slightly, oh yeah, it just jumped out, and then I can connect one to the chassis, one to the insulated side. Don't connect it to anything other than this, otherwise you will cause a short circuit and things will get hot, and yeah, you won't be in the best of positions. And if I give us some beans, are we going to get anything to work? Oh yeah, look at that. First test. A little bit of oil flying off into the sponge, but that's partially why we have the sponge. And that. Oh, look at how slow. Look at how gentle for a Triang loco that started up. It's a lot quieter. Let's try the reverse direction. It's a little bit eager there. I think the motor's stalled. Oh, that wire might actually be causing some of the problem. Let's see if we can bend that away under there. Yeah, that looks fine. Let's try it in the reverse direction. Oh yeah, that's perfect. Forwards. Really nice pull away. Full speed, not loud. Reverse speed. Yeah, it's a little bit louder, but in one direction it's always going to be a little bit louder. And if I'm not mistaken, the forward direction is the quietest anyway. But yeah, that's running fine. So now what I can do is just place it in the sponge. Just careful. In fact, what I'm going to do is stick the tweezers down the side so it doesn't contact the sides of the sponge. And now what I'm going to do is just very gently hold it here. Get the rotary tool, miss out the middle two, and then just very, very carefully touch the back to the wheels like that on the pickup side to get those nice and clean. So I'll do a couple of seconds of that for you, and then I will do the rest by myself. So fairly high speed, rotary tool, medium high speed, and then just and get my finger in a good place to hold it. All I'm going to do is get some contact cleaner. I think I accidentally said WD-40. You could use WD-40 to clean. Again, as long as you get all the residue off, because, you know, oil on your tracks is not going to make them very conductive. Oil on the wheels is not going to make them very conductive, and it's just going to make everything slip and slide all over the place. So if you do use WD-40, then I recommend making sure it completely dries off and you dry it all off. But I am using contact cleaner. I think one of the crocodile clips is coming loose under this, because every time I put pressure the engine slows down to a stop. So that's the tops of the wheels done, which are looking a lot shinier. And let's just do the backs of the pickup wheels. You could do the backs of all of the wheels, but the only wheels that pick up are these two here, so these are the only two, you know, you really need to spend a lot of time cleaning, to be honest with you. And I think that should be good enough. Let's disconnect power. And I'll turn it off at the controller so I don't accidentally short things together. Get the sponge out of the way and get the body on. So, that went quite well. How are we feeling? Yeah, the motor's not feeling too hot, so we've definitely got enough magnetism. Whoops. That's good. So the windings aren't bad. I could have checked them with a multimeter, but chances are, you know, if you are watching a video on how to service a Triang engine, you might not have a multimeter. And as long as the motor doesn't get too warm, and you know it's not sparking and spewing smoke everywhere, then generally it is fine. You certainly can check them with a multimeter, but, you know, as long as it don't get too warm and as long as it starts and pulls away nicely, you won't have a problem. You won't need to check with a multimeter. So, body just goes in at the front first with those two pegs, pushes over the back, and then this very, very small screw, which should be all too easy to lose, screws in to the back. And with a final couple of twists from my fingers, we have no bits left on the mat. That's brilliant. That is the complete service and strip down of this Triang 08 shunter. Coupling rods are looking a lot better and they've been de-rusted now, and hopefully it runs a damn sight better too. So we'll get it onto the layout for the final test. One thing I did just forget to mention, which doesn't need doing on this model, but the pickups on this side, as you can see, you need to make sure that they are contacting the wheel really well, as they are there and as they are there. And if they are not, then all you need to do is pinch this side of the pickup with some tweezers and gently apply a little bit of force on there, and that will bend the pickup down and make sure it contacts the wheel through all its range of motion. And the same on this side. If you need to adjust it, simply just pinch the end of the pickup on that side, and then in the middle just apply a little bit of pressure from a screwdriver there, and that'll make sure that the pickups are picking up and touching those wheels for all of both of their rotations. So then, there is a clean and serviced, fully lubricated, full service done Triang Class 08 shunter number D3035, R number 1532, Class 08 Triang shunter onto the layout. So I'll set the controller to forwards, give it some power, and we'll see if A, it works, B, doesn't go up in smoke, C, it runs in the correct direction corresponding to the controller, and D, slow speed and, you know, general running capabilities. So forwards direction, applying some juice now. Oh, look at that. That is absolutely... I don't want to blow my own trumpet, but that is absolutely fantastic. Will it start again now it's been stopped? Oh, look at that. That is the best performance from a Triang engine, bar my Flying Scotsman on a good day, it is a bit temperamental, I think I've seen from a Triang engine. That is absolutely... Look at how slow that'll run for a Triang. And I think this again further supports my theory. Whoa, a bit lively there, wasn't I? I think this again further supports the theory that this engine really has not done that much work. If I shut up for a minute, I'll just let you hear how loud it is. But in comparison to, you know, I'd say a bog standard stereotypical condition Triang engine, it's really not that loud. I did just see a little bit of a spark flash from the body there, but as the commutator again wears into the clean brushes and all that, I will give it a period of about 15 minutes running in either direction before I put any sort of load behind it. But that, I think you'll agree, for a Triang, very basic Triang 08, that performance really is not too bad. I mean, just look at how smoothly that's running, and let's try and do a decent takeoff. Just look at how that gently starts off. That is absolutely fantastic, and it's not that loud either. I am very, very impressed with this. Well, I'm happy that my skills are still in touch, so to speak, but I'm really happy with the sort of overall condition of this now, and the slow speed performance there. Look at how slow that is for a Triang. That is absolutely, again, not wanting to blow my own trumpet, phenomenal. That is brilliant. That is absolutely wonderful. Try it a bit faster. Yeah, it's really not that noisy, you know. I'm very, very pleased. Slightly noisier in forwards, but that doesn't really matter. Oh. Is that because the pickups need adjusting, which I did say in that section they don't, or is the point just dirty? No, the point's absolutely filthy, that's why it won't work. Yeah, so that's the points problem, it's covered in a layer of black carbon deposit. But yeah, I am very, very pleased with this 08. And to say it's got the really thick Triang flanges as well, it's not bouncing up and down too much either. Yeah, I am very, very impressed with this. I'm going to clean that point. Where is the track rubber? So then, with that point cleaned, let's see how it works now. Is it my dodgy servicing skills? No, it was just a dirty point. There we go. Brilliant. I am super pleased with this. I hope that the next owner, because this is going to get sold, I'm not keeping this. I really do hope that the next owner is going to enjoy this, because I've enjoyed servicing it, but I've already got an 08, and I bought this with the intention to sell it on, and I am very, very, if you can't tell, happy with the performance of this little 08. I mean, just look at how slow. I don't think I've ever seen a Triang engine run that slow. That is absolutely fantastic, and yeah, it's no problems over the point now I've cleaned it, so that is absolutely brilliant. So, thank you very much for watching, everyone. I do hope you have enjoyed. I do hope that this has been useful for you, and I hope it's helping you to solve any running problems you might have with your Triang 08, or indeed any Triang 06, so the mechanism and how everything fits together and, you know, how to service it is identical. So yeah, this has been the service of the Triang 08 Shunter. Thank you very much indeed for watching, and I do hope you have enjoyed. Do take care, and I will catch you all in the next one. I've been George from Highbrook End Model Railway.